Let's start the party!
It's time! Time for a Dante Smash Bros. Moveset. The beauty of Devil May Cry is that Dante's moveset is so extensive that he basically has enough to cover entire Smash Bros. Movesets. Multiples, from just his games alone. This marks my third time making a moveset for the legendary Devil Hunter, but it's my first time covering it in a video. So, in case you aren't aware of what a Dream Smasher entails, today we're talking stats, moves, animations, origins, aesthetics, and the logic behind making a moveset. The last time I made a Dante set for Source Gaming, it was a bit of a jack-of-all-trades affair, but this time, I'm making a more focused and cohesive set based around his skill set from Devil May Cry 5, and of course, from other games in the series. Smash seems to play favorites with representation, but I don't want to do that. We're gonna pull moves and animations from every game in the series. Yes, even that one. For those who have seen my all content in video on Devil May Cry and Smash Bros., I will be retreading some ground from there, so I'll try to keep it brief, but there is new content to be found, so don't skip ahead. Starting off with his alternate colors, we have costumes based on characters from all over the series. Of course, the default outfit is Dante's signature red coat, in its new appearance found in Devil May Cry 5. For his blue outfit, here's a color scheme based on his brother, Virgil. The green costume is based on Gilver from the DMC novel. This new yellow costume is based on Nico from Devil May Cry 5. Thanks to a commenter, I realized that Dante didn't have a yellow team costume, so I had to fix that. Even though the colors aren't tied to teams anymore, I still felt it was good to have. After that, we have another blue alt based on Nero's attire from Devil May Cry 5. Next is an alt based on V from Devil May Cry 5. It's all black, save for Dante's hair, because Dante having black hair is a sin. Then we have a purple alt, based on Dante's father Sparta. Lastly, we have a dark skin in the vein of Dark Link, loosely based on the doppelganger boss from Devil May Cry 3. For the graphics, the series logo for Devil May Cry is the Rebellion. There could be alternative symbols, possibly the letters DMC from Devil May Cry, but Rebellion feels the most appropriate, as DMC can never really keep a consistent logo, and the one constant of most every game is the Rebellion. Dante's stock icon is self-explanatory. It's based on his appearance from Devil May Cry 5. The stubble Dante has is not depicted, as Snake, who has a very prominent beard, doesn't even have that in his stock icon. Next, the Kirby hat, which would be Dante's signature goofy hair. He seems to also have adopted Dante's personality. Somebody stop him before he raids the local pizza shop. Oh god. There he goes. Lastly, Dante would have meters above his HUD for his Devil Trigger and Royal Guard energy. We'll get back to how those work later. Now, for what you've been waiting for, the moveset, the whole shebang. Let's jump right into this with the normal animations. Dante's entrance would be reminiscent of his dramatic introduction in Devil May Cry 4, where Dante flies down in slow motion and lands on a pedestal. When he hits the ground, he could also turn and flash a smile before the camera flies away. All of Dante's idle animations have stayed mostly the same between Devil May Cry 4 and 5, so all of these would be coming from 4. His regular stance would be the same as in Devil May Cry 4 and 5. Dante stands quite straight, with his sword Rebellion on his back. In his second idle, Dante stretches and crosses his arms. This animation would likely end here, as the full animation has Dante fall asleep right after this until the player resumes control. Maybe this can be Dante's sleeping animation, the first character in Smash to sleep standing up. The final idle has Dante putting his hands on his hips and looking behind him, pondering where all the action is. For his walk, Dante is rather slow, but he walks with a swagger and confidence. And again, for his run, Dante isn't the fastest, but I can't really blame him. He's got a lot of work to do and those old bones just aren't what they used to be. For the crouch, I don't know, he crouches in some of his taunts. I guess make his crouch like this taunt? I don't know, it works. For the jump, we're in luck, because Devil May Cry is special. It's one of the few games where its double jump is actually justified in universe. Hooray! For the double jump, a glyph appears beneath Dante's feet, tied to his weapon, that allows him to jump off of it again. This is called the air hike, and it has been around since the first game. Talk about ingenuity. Finishing out our normal animations, when Dante takes damage, he flinches just a bit. It likely doesn't hurt too much. He's been impaled a lot. Now this is the section that we covered in our all content in video, but worry not, as all of the specials have changed aside from our first special. Yes, I'm that indecisive. But I also used feedback gained from that last video and previous movesets in order to make the best possible Dante set I could. Dante would of course have to be gimped to be a playable character in Smash, turning his wealth of moves into a much smaller kit. However, characters such as Bayonetta, Ryu, and Ken have opened the way for more complex and varied techniques. So Dante could have a few context-sensitive moves pulled straight from his games that can be performed with the right series of inputs. Dante's down special is Devil Trigger. On top of Dante's percentage is his Devil Trigger bar. The bar can be filled by landing blows, split-second dodges and blocks, taunting successfully, and getting hurt with more devastating attacks. Up to 10 notches. Once he has 3 notches on his Devil Trigger bar, Dante can let loose his demonic self by activating his Devil Trigger, which lasts as long as he has energy left. Specific moves use Devil Trigger energy, and while in Devil Trigger, moves are buffed in damage, with certain moves gaining special perks. Also while in Devil Trigger, Dante gains super armor for a lot of his attacks, and regenerates very slight health, about 5% in total for a full bar. For the neutral special, Dante pulls out his trusty pistols Ebony and Ivory and shoots in front of him. If the button is mashed while Dante is standing still, Dante will execute twosome time, which has him shooting in place. The angle of his left pistol can be determined by the left control stick. The shots will do minimal damage because they shoot very fast, and they will only stun enemies when Dante is in twosome time. Holding the button and waiting for Dante's hands to glow will power up his charge shot, allowing Dante's firearms to become stronger for a limited period of time. While in Devil Trigger, all firearms are charge shots. In the air, this move is Rainstorm, which is one of the only moves in this set that originated in Devil May Cry 2. It looked pretty jank there. Luckily, Devil May Cry 3 revamped this move and made it more stylish, with Dante twirling around firing off both his pistols. And this is the version of the move still around today. In addition, the button can be held to extend this attack until Dante reaches the ground. For the side special, we have an ability that dates back to Devil May Cry 3, but one that Dante does not have for his rebellion in 5, despite having it for 2 games straight: Drive. Dante gathers power in his sword, charging up energy to perform Drive, which unleashes a large projectile of energy from his blade. The button can be held until the sword emits red sparks to unleash its full power. After attacking, if the button is pressed one more time, Dante performs Overdrive, attacking with 2 more strikes. If the special and attack buttons are pressed at the same time, Dante performs Quick Drive, a weaker but more time-efficient version of the attack. For our up special, we have Trick. Air Trick, simply put, is a split-second teleport. In the games, without an enemy nearby, Dante doesn't move very far, but will stretch the rules a little bit to make this recovery better. If an enemy is in line with Dante, he will always lock onto that enemy and teleport as close to them as he can if they are in range. The ground version of this move is fittingly called Ground Trick, just introduced in Devil May Cry 5, and though the move starts on the ground, Dante still teleports into the air, which can leave him wide open or allow him to combo into an aerial. This move can also be used to dodge enemy attacks, as when close, Dante will just blip out of existence and then pop right back into place. And again, for our final smash, we have a move that is a mid-game spoiler for Devil May Cry 5. Smash isn't above spoiling games that just came out, and this is the perfect cinematic final smash. If you want to skip it, jump to the timestamp on screen now. Good? Alright. 3, 2, 1. Dante's final smash has him unleashing the full power of his Sin Devil Trigger with Judgment, letting loose Armageddon with a series of blows that finishes off with an explosion of demonic energy, expending all of it to the point where he reverts back to his human form and falls back to Earth. Oh boy, for Dante's guard, we're in for a big explanation, because his guard is Royal Guard. What's Royal Guard? Well, it's one of Dante's styles, and one of his defining techniques since Devil May Cry 3. Royal Guard allows Dante to block incoming attacks, halving the damage taken from them, but with perfect timing, he will block all damage. That was until DMC 5. Now the chip damage has been swapped out for losing a section of Devil Trigger. If you do not have DT, the block fails, breaking Dante's shield. This offers a new risk-reward system for shield, as Dante cannot passively shield. An active effort must be made to block at the right time. As stated, Dante cannot passively shield, and following DMC5 will lose DT for using a block. This limitation can be avoided by performing Royal Guard with perfect timing, executing a Royal Block. If timed just right, releasing Royal Guard at the last second, Dante will execute a Royal Block, and take no damage from the incoming attack. This fits over the current parry system in place in Ultimate. While Dante doesn't execute a flashy parry, he gains the upper hand and a bit of DT. So pulling this off with him will still be beneficial in the long run. The meter underneath Dante's Devil Trigger is the Royal meter. Here, energy is saved up from blocking attacks. Each successful block will fill half a notch on his Royal meter with energy, and if a Royal block is executed, he will gain a full notch, up to 10 times. The built-up energy can then be released at any time while holding shield, by pressing the special button. As an inverse of the Inkling, who does the same command to build up their meter, Dante does it to bottom out his stored energy from guarding attacks. Dante can unleash the stored energy at any time in a release by using this attack. Strength and knockback depends on the amount of stored energy and timing. If he releases right when he's about to be attacked, he will perform a Royal Release, which will generate more knockback and launch Dante forward. For the dodge, due to the Devil May Cry games being heavily focused around locking onto enemies and directional inputs, Dante has had dodge rolls since the first game. The ones found in Devil May Cry 5 can slot in right here. For the spot dodge, just use Trick again. I mean, it works. For the air dodge, Devil May Cry 5 gifted us with the joy of air flips, allowing Dante to do 6 flips from side to side while locked onto an enemy. This innovation in animation allows for a new slick feeling in dodging your enemies, and enhances the adrenaline of dodging at the last minute. Oh my god, it was in Devil May Cry 2. Well, either way, these flips would work great as Dante's air dodge. For the fall break, Devil May Cry has teching right in the game itself. This move is called Flipper, and by pressing the style button while in Trickster after being hit, Dante flips back onto his feet. Nice. For the floor attack, Dante spins around, kicking his legs into the air and flips back onto his feet. So, for the ledge grab, alright, Dante doesn't typically grab ledges. He just flips over them. But in his first outing, Devil May Cry, Dante could grab and climb onto specific ledges, so hey, we have this animation. But for the edge attack, unfortunately, Dante never attacks anyone while climbing a ledge, so this is going to have to be our first and only original move for this moveset. I've enlisted the help of my friend, AShadowLink, for help in illustrating this attack, so please give him a follow on Twitter. Link in the description. For his edge attack, Dante does a somersault over the edge while shooting Ivory. Now we move on to the normal attacks. Dante's neutral would be Rebellion Combo B. Originating in Devil May Cry 3, it's easy to see why this move would slot here, as it fits perfectly. It even has a flurry, as mashing the button during this attack causes Dante to use Million Stab. This has been integrated regularly into the move in subsequent entries, but its Devil May Cry 3 form would be perfect for Smash. For the dash attack, Dante will be borrowing a move from Nero, because Nero has the only dash attack in Devil May Cry, Rainbow. Performing a 2-foot dropkick isn't entirely out of his character, and makes logistic sense. The move most people, including myself previously, put in this slot isn't a dash attack, so instead, I've put it on the forward tilt. Yes, that's right. Stinger is Dante's forward tilt, because the move is executed by pressing the control stick in the direction of your enemy, and that movement matches up perfectly with the forward tilt. The quick launch forward can be used as a spacing tool, and if the button is mashed immediately after executing the move, Dante will perform Million Stab. When in Devil Trigger, this move will be stronger and launch farther with a bigger hitbox in exchange for Devil Trigger energy. For our up tilt, we have Minimum Dragon, which has Dante do a strong uppercut, launching his foes upwards. With our down tilt, we have Balrog in kick mode with Balrog Combo A, unleashing 3 mighty kicks, chained with button presses. Break out the big boys because we're breaking out the smash attacks to send them flying. Starting with the forward smash, Dante would be using his trusty shotgun Coyote A. The shotgun was the most versatile gun in Devil May Cry 1, and quite handy in later installments, so unloading some buckshot here seems very appropriate. The charging animation for this attack should mimic Charge Shot, which will have Dante's hand glow red when the more powerful buckshot is ready. If the button is mashed, Dante can perform this move quickly multiple times with Rapid Shot. Gotta mash it a hell of a lot though. I can only do it once. This up smash is a fan favorite, Real Impact. Real Impact has a long wind-up but devastating payoff. The attack fails if it doesn't hit an enemy, leaving Dante vulnerable, but if it hits hard, unleashing a powerful punch leading into a Rising Dragon. Yes, this is a Shoryuken. In the DMC3 version of this move, if the button is mashed in the air, Dante will then perform Tornado, a spinning kick. Yes, this is a Tatsumaki. He should do this in Smash. For the down smash, Dante lets loose with Balrog in kick mode and heats up the dance floor with Break Spiral, finishing off with 2 jumping kicks. The attack will go on longer the more you mash the button. This attack is pretty long in the game, so we'll cut it right here. Now let's break out the aerial attacks. We've already seen some attacks that put Dante into the air, so let's see what he can do up there. Devil May Cry is all about juggling and staying off the ground as much as possible, so Dante should have a pretty extensive air game. For the neutral air, the first aerial combo in Devil May Cry, Aerial Rave, introduced in Devil May Cry 3, makes the most sense. Dante swings his sword fluidly while suspended in the air. Each hit of the 4-hit combo is its own button press. For the forward air, we have the classic, the original aerial move, Helm Splitter. Dante hefts his sword down, dropping him and it on any foe beneath. This move cannot be cancelled. You're locked in for the ride. Have fun. For the back air, we'll have to get creative, as there really is no way to attack enemies in the air behind you in Devil May Cry. Instead, you have to target them, and Dante will flip around and attack them. For his back air, Dante will do just that, flipping around and unloading his trusty shotgun in the air. I tend to do this a lot in DMC1, so I thought this would be pretty fitting in this slot. Dante's up air is pretty simple. It's Feather Combo, a 2-hit punch with Balrog. There's a third move to this attack in DMC5, but the aerial is simpler and more elegant without that final hit, as it hits downwards, so we'll cut it for the sake of the move. Finally, Dante's down air is friction, better known to DMC fans as Killer B. Yeah, that's right. Virgil's beware. Killer B is here and will crumble all those it hits. In exchange for a long wind-up, Killer B delivers lots of power and can even break shields. We're reaching the home stretch, but now it's time for the grabs. We're gonna have to get creative for these, as aside from a few specific scripted animations in the first game, Dante doesn't really grab his opponents. So in my digging, I found a cutscene in DMC4 where he grabs Nero, and this grab is really appropriate for his character. Dante literally holds Nero by the wrist because he's that strong. He's so strong that the amount of force Nero was exerting to break free of his grasp causes him to go crashing into and making a dent in the wall when Dante lets him go. So yeah, there's Dante's grab. For the pummel, the fastest attack Dante has is Light Blow, which is Dante rapidly punching with Balrog. Imagine him doing this while holding his opponent by the wrist with his other hand. For the forward throw, we have a crazy move Dante does in the intro of Devil May Cry 3, which you can also do in the game. Isn't that radical? Dante drops his enemy to the ground and hops on their back for a quick ride. As a bonus, pressing the special button during the move allows Dante to shoot ebony and ivory while riding his foe. Now on to the back throw. It's time. Dante whips his foe around, tossing the rose from Lucifer. It explodes with great force, unleashing ecstasy, and in the end, we are all satisfied. Dante's up throw is his signature launcher, High Time. Using his sword as a platform, Dante thrusts Rebellion upwards, lifting his opponent up with his blade. Just like in the games, if the input is held during the throw, Dante will rise with his opponents. Our final attack, Dante's down throw, is Wild Stomp. Dante throws his enemy down, stomps on them to hold them to the ground, and lets loose a flurry of bullets into his enemy before kicking them away. Mashing the button during the attack will cause Dante to shoot more. And that's it for the attacks. But we still have some final things to cover, such as Taunts. Taunts are pretty essential to the Devil May Cry experience, so it's a shame that Smash only allows 3. I've picked taunts that originate from Dante's 3 most important games, Devil May Cry 1, 3, and 5. So let's start with that first one, shall we? Dante's up taunt is pretty much his signature taunt, dating back to the first game. A one-handed sarcastic beckon. It's so iconic, Dante pretty much does it all the time, complete with that iconic "come on!" Dante's side taunt is an S-rank taunt from Devil May Cry 3. Dante shrugs nonchalantly, mocking his opponent.
You scared?
This pose has become pretty iconic to Dante, even becoming the standard pose for his render in Devil May Cry 4. And our final taunt is an S-rank taunt from Devil May Cry 5. Dante stands in place, laughing.
Guts and honor.
This is a cute little reference from Devil May Cry 1, and I think it rounds out the set really well. Now last but not least, we have our victory poses. Again, I enlisted the help of my good friend Ayasobu to bring these to life, as well as our resident graphic artist Voyager, who made the background graphics, move icons, and series emblem you see in this video. And thank you to Hero Techni for providing the animated intro. Do give all 3 of them a follow. Again, links in the description. For our first victory pose, we have a reference to Devil May Cry 3's intro, where Dante does a series of punches while dangling a slice of pizza in his mouth. That pizza is looking pretty good if you ask me. For our second pose, we have a reference to the infamous Agnes scenes from Devil May Cry 4.
And the rest is silence.
And for our last victory pose, We have a taunt from Devil May Cry 5.
Man, I'm bored.
And of course, no victory pose is complete without a victory theme. Dante's victory theme would be an abridged version of the opening sting of Devils Never Cry from Devil May Cry 3, as it has basically become the theme of Dante in all crossover games. In fact, I've made a mock-up of it here. As a bonus, the losing animation, well, Dante slow claps in this cutscene in Devil May Cry 4. There we go.
That's a solid performance for an old fart like you.
And there we have it. There's my full, extensive moveset for Dante if he were to appear in Super Smash Bros. This was an intense labor of love for me, as I love Devil May Cry, and I really want Dante to be in Smash. There will be an article version of this Dream Smasher at a later date, because I need to prepare a whole lot of gifts. A little fun fact, did you know that Dante's voice actor also voices Ken? That's right, in the English version of Smash Ultimate, you're hearing Ruben Langdon, esteemed actor of Dante, shouting all of Ken's lines. And he does a pretty good job because Ruben is fluent in Japanese. Hopefully one day, we'll be able to make the two Rubens face off. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Consider watching my other Devil May Cry videos while you're here. If you want to see more high-quality content from us, please consider donating on Patreon. I'm currently putting myself through college, so I can only do videos like these in my free time. A little money goes a long way. Thank you for watching again, and I hope your day is smokin' sexy stylish.